So, welcome back, everyone. This is week two. We will be focusing on the second item of mindfulness, and this week we're going to have our first presenter, Tiffany. So, I will let Tiffany begin whenever she's ready.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen. I hope this works. I'm using Prezi instead of PowerPoint. Can everyone see?
It started screen sharing, but I don't see anything. Oh, there. Now I see it. Yes.
Okay, awesome, good. Okay, they said it would work. So excuse the top, I just have like a lot of work stuff. But the main presentation that I have here is looking ahead to the future. And I was thinking of this particular project as more of a reflection piece in finding your roots. As we all know, with number two, it's about the observation of situations. And with the reading and with watching the video, I also thought more of it as you're kind of laying out a strategy for how to stay balanced and that you're not focused just on what you're currently dealing with, but you're also laying roots for the future. So let's begin. Let's hope this works. Yay. Okay. So leave nothing behind. If it is permissible, we must use it for good. If it can be raised higher, we cannot leave it below. And if it is trapped in darkness, the means will come to liberate it from there. Every sentient being is made with a purpose. So we are not meant to remain idle. Everything that is within us can be used for our benefit. But we have to think about how we go forward and leave nothing behind. And that means also our negative experiences as well as our positive to inform our future. An inside job, and I mean that spiritually. Fixing up the world is always an inside job. When do we fix anything? When we are in need. If you think about it, our destiny is tied to the destiny of that which we repair and improve. With the food we eat, the bodies in which we live, the business in which we work, and the communities in which we live, you can only rescue the divine spark within a thing when you have your entire being tied up with it. And as if you've had the opportunity to take Canon 1 or just through your own practice, there is the mutual beneficence that is a part of Wan Buddhism, that whatever we do now not only affects the future for us, but also for all of those elements that we're involved in. So it's very important to think about not just your own well-being, but the being of others. So as you're maintaining this thought, of planning for the future without ruminating over it, of course, it's also how can this be of service to others? So, no bad roads. For me, this is one of the number two is one of the hardest to apply because sometimes you make a decision or you fail to make the right decision and it takes you on the wrong road. But I've learned through my practice that even the wrong road eventually takes you closer to the truth. Actually, it takes you even closer because you know how that story could end. So you only can make better choices from there, as well as that you can inform others too of what your life situation was or could be based on your experience. It's all about projecting forward and not, again, leaving anything behind. The bad also informs for the good. If it is broken, and that could be any part of our lives or the world at whole, if something is broken, fix it. If you can't fix all of it, fix some of it. But do not say you cannot do anything, because if that were true, why would this broken thing have come into your world? And that's what makes number two very difficult. Because part of observation is noticing, at least for me, in a very human way, what could be better. And sometimes you feel, or at least I do, overwhelmed or you're uncertain. But it's comforting to know that you may not be able to do all of it. That's why we're in a community. That's why we're in a Sangha, because you can do your part and make a contribution. But again, everything that comes into your life, good as well as bad, there's a purpose behind it. And again, it informs you for how the future can be or would be, depending on the choices that you make. So don't just stand there. As long as you're holding on to where you were yesterday, you're standing still. Whatever knowledge you are given in this world, whatever wisdom, enlightenment, or inspiration, it is all only and exclusively for one purpose: to assist you in fixing this world. So, if many of you remember, we were implored to not ruminate, but think really about how to strike that balance. And if you're only focused on where you're standing today because you want to be peaceful and you don't want to stress out, you run the risk of stressing out down the line because you're not building a foundation strong enough to maintain when times are difficult. But also, there's something beautiful about thinking of your contribution to the world and fixing it, kind of like being the world's mechanic in a way. So again, whatever you have, the wisdom, enlightenment, even if it's just a small bit, because of course we'll always learn for lifetimes to come, it's all meant for a purpose. So who am I? We each are in the prison of being that. Unchallenged, our souls know no better. We are within the ultimate confines where we have oh, sorry, I should have changed that, to learn, to leap, break out of all boundaries, to escape the prison of being, to be not that. So I see the power of thinking of the present, past, and future, more so towards the future, as breaking out of the confines of, oh, well, I can only do this. I've only been able to achieve this. There's nothing else. The mind is expansive, and the only limitations that we have are ourselves. And a part of mindfulness practice is not making those plans as if you're writing a college paper, but rather, what can my mind be challenged to do that I can do differently? And baby steps count, as well as progressive, large, life-changing steps. But right now, without that enlightenment, but we're working towards that, we're focused only on one way of being. But the goal is to not be just that. And that's the end of my presentation. I hope I was within time. So thank you everyone for your attention.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for that. So while that was, well, first of all, that was the first time we've used Prezi here in our group.
Oh,
So thank
okay.
you for the great presentation.
Sure.
And Tiffany touched on a lot of really interesting points, very eye-opening and many layers for me. It was a kind of a message of hope in many ways. That was the word that came to me. And then you started off by just showing the uniqueness of all of us, that we have something to contribute, that is actually our responsibility in some ways, because we don't live by ourselves, but that we live within a community, that we live within the world. But I think one thing that the question that you asked that struck me was, what can I do differently? I think being that self-reflective, having that ability to be self-aware, and using that moment to really see, well, what can in this situation, is there something that I can do to change the trajectory, right? So, but I'd like to open it up to the group. There was so much fruitful content to discuss or to reflect on, or if you have any questions. It was great. Yes, Catherine.
Tiffany, thank you. Thank you so much. I really like your tree with the roots. That looked really nice. One thing that resonated with me is where you said, if something is broken, you know, you think, I can't fix it, so I'm leaving it, I'm walking away. And you don't know what repercussions that has for you down the line. But I liked how you said, if you can fix part of it, you know, if you can fix a piece of something, that's a good place to start. Because I know so many times if I look at something and say, I can't do this, I can't fix it, I can't make it better. And I tend not to look to see if there's a piece of it or a part of it that I can. So I want to thank you for that. I'll try to remember that next time something breaks.
Me too. I'm still working on that. It was easier to write it than live it.
You
Thank
know,
you.
and so many things I'm like, well, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just not even going to try to do this, you know. And it's so broken. There's no way I could fix it. But that's a very interesting philosophy to have, and I thank you for presenting that to us.
Sure. Thank you, Catherine.
Mhm.
Yeah, Christine. Great.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was great. That was very inspirational. And Reverend Grace, thank you for sending the links to read Reverend Chung Sun's words, because I didn't have the book yet. So I was feeling very unprepared when we were supposed to be prepared. Tonight was about preparedness, but I found it and I read it. But the part that resonated with me that goes to your talk is where he talked about the big gear moving. And when that big gear moves, it turns all those other little gears, maybe in very subtle ways. So I love that you talked about how, you know, it's something small, but that big gear can really turn some of the other gears and make a change. And it totally reminded me of Tikkun Ilan, which is from the Judaism, you repair the world, because that's like something they pray for all the time. Um, and so I love that it's very married to Buddhism in that sense, that repairing the world is really important. So so thank you. That was really good.
Awesome. Hey.
Yes, Jay. Jay.
Unmute, please.
Oh.
I can't hear it.
Oh, microphone? Yeah.
I think she's trying.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much. It makes me to think. But
hmm.
in what way you say the word is broken?
Thank you for that question, Jay. So I can only speak for myself. I see the imperfection within myself in being less like not being very outwardly focused, kind of also being a little self-focused as a form of a brokenness. And it's easy to think of other people and political systems, but everything to me comes from how you respond to the world. And working on how to improve my mind, in a sense, to not see the world as opposite of me, but that there's a contribution there and that I'm a part of the world. But until I feel comfortable in doing that naturally, that's something that I need to fix. And that is my particular world. And if I'm able to work on that, then I could fix the bigger systemic problems. That's how I interpreted that. I'm sure others have different ways of interpreting it.
Thank you. That's interesting. That yes, you are or I am. We are all part of the world, and yeah, I agree with you. I am not perfect, so I am chipped, broken somewhere. So thank you. I was looking at the world as just only the big.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We can always look at the small part of the world too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it.
Great question. Great perspective. Yeah.
Can I go back to?
Oh, she knows. She knows.
To be quiet. Oh.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your beautiful presentation. I really like it. And thank you for reminding me everywhere a Buddha image and every act are Buddha's offering. Whenever I see the news, there are some crimes that is unforgivable and unacceptable. And whenever I see that kind of news, uh, it's always came to me like a koan. How do I see that person, or how do I can see those people as the fourfold grace? We say everything is grace and everything is Buddha offering, that some some things, how people made that kind of things. Um, so when you're on your slide, you said we each are in the prison of being dead. I think uh, so. When I saw that slide, the slide, you reminded me that originally we are all Buddhas, but each of us, we are just trapped and we are in the prison of some part of deluded thoughts. And it made us make those deluded things. So thank you for remind me that, and thank you for giving me some more compassion to see the world. Thank you.
High praise.
Sorry, my internet is not good.
Oh no, you were understood. Thank you, Reverend Kang.
So Tiffany also talked about no bad roads. That was something that was like, even if it's a bad road, it does lead us up to the truth too. So that point was also quite powerful. And also with Shinogyo, your point, I mean, sometimes I come across that too. Like you hear these horrific things that people do, but then when you hear their story, their history, there was some brokenness in them that, made them do that act. And so it's hard that when you look at someone's history, it's hard to make that judgment, right? Even with, go ahead, Tiffany. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to agree with you. I heard something. I was thinking of Christine's beautiful meditation. That, I live in Washington, D.C., and everyone knows what happened. And regardless of where you're at, there are strong emotions. And a friend of mine shared a perspective that made what happened and the people involved more human, because I was struggling with that. He's a social worker. And he was saying you have to look at it as, when he works with children, not saying that the people are children, I'm not infantilizing them or their beliefs at all. But when there's something that they love is taken away from them, they act out, right? We all did that as children. None of us were calm, cool, and collected when we lost our teddy bear, or heaven forbid you lost a parent or a grandparent, right? Like that hits you at your core. And he said you have to look at them with the compassion of their losing something, whether or not you agree. And when he said that, I was like, oh, And yeah, there are people there that I totally vehemently disagree with, and I think they feel the same, but there's still a person who feels that they're in jeopardy and that they're losing protection. And we've all felt that vulnerable in one way or another. So I think that's also why I wanted to focus in on what are the strategies of being okay where you're at and how do you move past it? Kind of what Reverend Shino was saying is, you know, how do you get beyond your brokenness? How do you get beyond that fear? Because that's at the root of everything. But from that point forward, you know, I take the politics out of it and I try to think of what are they afraid of? And what is bringing out that childlike fear of I'm losing and I have nothing to replace it. So I just wanted to share that. I thought it was great when he just mentioned it to me. So.
Thank you for that sharing, Tiffany. Thank you for sharing that perspective. That's, yeah. Okay. All right. So then we will learn to Reverend Yu, if you'd like to speak.
Okay, good to see you, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. If you don't have a Venerable Chongsan, our second head Dharma Master's scripture, just email it to me. Till mid-60s, do you know in Amazon, there is a beautiful forest that has a huge size, very, very extremely tall trees. That forest attracted so many tourists, but in the early 70s, all those trees died. Those trees very luckily survived lightning, thunderstorm, tornado, etc., all kinds of natural disaster. But something happened. And within 3 years, all trees died. Do you know what happened? Some kind of a virus, not COVID-19, some kind of a bacteria start to destroy all the barks of those trees. Bacteria, it's invisible. We cannot, it is so small. But those invisible things that destroyed all those trees, which the forest, those trees were at least 400, 500 years old. Likewise, very small unmindfulness. If you are mindless in some area, that can change your destiny. Sometimes can destroy your life, destroy some human relationship, destroy your career. For example, I'm not mindful to straighten my room, to clean my room. I'm not mindful to work out every day. It's okay, it's not that bad. But in some area you are not mindful, the consequence can be very, very huge. It's very costly. What are those items of mindfulness? The 6 items of mindfulness in daily practice from 1 to 6. This is something you need to become mindful. Some other things as I said in the previous class, if you try to mindful in each and everything, into many things, you'll be exhausted. That's not workable approach. If you are mindful in these 6 items, all things just will follow. So these are the pillars. The first one, in all your actions, be mindful to make choices with a sound thought. We studied last Thursday. So the fruit of our spiritual practice is always our action. Specifically speaking, make a very wise choice. Making choice with a sound thought, simultaneous carry out of threefold study that our third head Dharma master explained this first item. So the second item we will study today, before engaging in our actions, in our applications, observe the circumstances and be mindful to study for it, to prepare for it in advance, to study and prepare for it well in advance of time. Do you know what's the fastest growing religion in the whole world? What's the biggest religion?
Muslim.
Yeah, Muslim is the fast growing religion. There are lots of Buddhist practitioners growing. So one council was held in the palace of Satan. Muslims are growing faster in its number. There are lots of Buddhist practitioners in the East and the West. Christianity is already very big. They will lose their battleground. They may lose their palace. So how can they deal with those situations? When Satan suggested, well, why don't we kill all those religious people? Very simple and clear. Some other devil replied, no, it will not work. Historically, we killed many Christians. If there is one martyr, 10 or 100 Christians will arise. When another Satan suggested, then why don't we imprison all those practitioners and religious people? Another Satan said, no, it will not work, because even inside the prison, they will meditate, they will pray, they will study scripture. We know Martin Luther, when he was imprisoned in Germany, he utilized that time to translate the Bible into the German. That did not work. Very old Satan suggested, why don't we use this approach? Let all people fulfill what they want, and let them be in their comfort zone. We can just insert one thought in their mind. I will do that from tomorrow. I will do what I'm supposed to do from next week. Why don't you place just one thought into the minds of the human beings. One of the common habits of all humans in the East and the West is the habit of procrastination, postponing things. The Korean saying, 작심삼일, which means New Year resolution lasts for 3 days. New Year resolution lasts for 3 days. One scholar conducted a survey whether it is true or not. According to his study, it lasted for a little more than 3 days. 3.3 days, less than, not more than 4 days. It's just a statistic. Diligent people are the person who prepare well in advance of time. Well in advance of time. You ever heard the guy Deng Xiaoping? After Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, it's so differently pronounced. He is the reformist leader of the Communist Party of China. He is the architect of the market economy, Chinese style market. Under his guidance, China developed so rapidly, especially economically. It grew exponentially under his leadership. During the Cultural Revolution, he was purged, and he was a farmer for almost 20 years. He was not allowed to become involved in any politics. As soon as Mao Zedong died and he became the #1 person in Communist Party, he immediately embarked on those reformation policies in a very skillful and practical way. He was a farmer for 20 years. How could he carry out that great, grand job? He said to his friends, his fellow comrades in the Communist Party, when he was a farmer, he prepared how to reform the China for 20 years. He prepared himself for 20 years as a farmer. Our third head Dharma master issued New Year message on the first day of a new year. Venerable Desan, he put the New Year message, the tentative one, the final one, from the early October in his room. When he go inside the room, he always look at that and polish the sentence. He was a greatly enlightened master already. He prepared in that way in every, whether it's in your practice, in your career, in whatever area, even in human relationship. If you would like to succeed, get yourself prepared. Very simple. If you prepare a lot, you will be very successful. If you prepare just a little bit, you'll be successful just a little bit. In the regular college, I studied economics. I have to take lots of math classes. But linear algebra, it does not take much time to study that. But advanced calculus, it's not a joke. You have to invest a lot of time. But in one semester, I thought studying for 4 or 5 days is enough. That's a very, very big misunderstanding. As the exam date is approaching, I was nervous, I was anxious, I could not concentrate. If I prepared well in advance time, I could study in a far more efficient, concentrated, peaceful way. Think about that. Some very important meeting starts at 10 o'clock. If you arrive that meeting exactly at 10 o'clock or 10 minutes earlier or 10:10, what's your mind state? If you arrive at that important meeting 5 or 10 minutes earlier, the whole meeting can become very different. So get yourself being prepared. It's one of the mindfulness. But why do people have the habit of procrastination? It's a very hard word to pronounce. Procrastination. Yeah. One statistic says 93 people in this world have that kind of habit. Many people reply, why do you have the tendency to postpone things in the later? Many of them replied, it is because I'm not that diligent. I'm kind of lazy. It's too broad. But one psychologist very carefully studied the habit of procrastination, being lazy. The people who replied, I try to postpone things because I'm lazy. Actually, they are not lazy person in many areas. If they watch the baseball game or the internet shopping, whatever, in some areas, they are very enthusiastic. And they are not less motivated. They really would like to accomplish something. But they still, so in one world, the bottom line is they are not that lazy. But why do they have the habit to procrastinate? The psychologist said, it's not all. For many people, it is the anxiety of fear residing in their mind, particularly to the person who are perfectionists. They are become more afraid. They are fearful of the results, of the consequence. If we very deeply investigate our mind, because of the fear, we postpone things. Especially in these days, we tend to have that kind of tendency because the environment is changed. In older days, if you postpone things, for example, I have to study mathematics today, but in older days, what was the temptation? At the time of Adam and Eve, very deliciously looking apple, just one thing. It's not just the apple these days. For example, I would like to go to the movie theater or go to the water park during the summer, etc. These days, you do not have to go to movie theater. Movie is just one click away. You do not have to fancy shopping mall. Online, you can buy all kind of things. The temptation is really very, very high. There are lots of marketing gurus who try to steal your mind. When you happen to watch one film on YouTube, they exactly calculate your preference. As soon as you finish watching that film, they recommend another film, which really match with your preference. In this kind of environment, drive people to postpone things. So that's so one of the solution is why don't we change our environment? Change our environment. For example, you decide in your mind that I have to meditate every day. Then instead of just trying to make a firm determination, one of the best ways is just join the Sangha, go to the meditation group. When you hear the meditation bell, whether you like it or not, you have to sit for 30 or 40 minutes. That kind of a little enforced environment is very, very helpful. Changing our environment. Many people decide their mind to work out on a regular basis. It's very hard. It's a very common New Year resolution, very hard to carry that out. That's why many people register in some gym, go to some fitness center. It's very easy for you to work out with other people. In Korea, the students who are preparing SAT, the 12th students in their 12th grade, in order to study at night, they have to overcome the temptation of sleep. Do you know what they do? They play the live feed of their friends' study on their laptop. They watch each other. They watch it. You can borrow. In order to strengthen your determination, you can use various methods. Or many psychologists suggest if you are tempted to postpone something, if that kind of a thought arises, they are not spiritual teachers. You can sit quiet in the chair, meditate for 30 minutes, watching your thoughts, or feeling your breath, whatever thing. Temptation is triggered by your thoughts. The better ground is always our mind. Whether it's a good or bad thought that start to subside, your mind become empowered, a very good wisdom arises. lots of psychologists, not Buddhist teacher recommend, have some quiet moment. It really works. Statistic-wise, it really works. Or just a walking meditation is fine. That kind of unwholesome thoughts disappear. And when you prepare yourself, the important thing is observe the circumstance. Observe the circumstance. Observe the circumstance. Study the Korean, original Korean says, study the circumstance and be mindful to prepare yourself. Study the circumstance. At the beginning of November, we ministers at the One Dharma Center prepared to make kimchi. This year, 300 cabbages. We have to peel off, we have to prepare lots of garlics. Peeling off the skin of the garlic is a pretty big deal. Very time-consuming job. It really takes time. But I learned from one female minister. Grace, do you know how to easily peel off the skin of garlic? Or she know?
Hot water or something like that?
Yeah. You can put the garlic in the water for 1 and then peeling off the skin of the garlic becomes very, very easy. Study the circumstance and then prepare yourself. Especially when our founding master prepare yourself, he wrote that item in a very spiritual sense. Many people on their deathbed regret a lot of things on their deathbed. Many of the people's life goal is becoming successful in their life and making a lot of money, etc. For all regular people. Not any one single person regret that kind of things. For example, the typical thing they regret, according to the statistic, is I could not discover my true life goal. I didn't spend a good quality time with my family members. Nobody regrets. She or her didn't make a lot of money. One of my friend, when I visited Korea several years ago, he's a public accountant. He makes a lot of money. He told me he feels very, very empty. He's okay with his friends, with his family members. But he told me he could not, day in, day out, he always worked till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. But he couldn't understand why he's living or he have to live in that way. So finding our life goal is what comes first. In line with that, we needed to prepare ourselves. Probably at the time, Grace was a prime minister, probably 5 or 6 Philadelphia One-Temple members visited Korea to join the centennial of our second head Dharma master, Jung-san. When they came back, I asked, did you like the ceremony? Nobody said the ceremony was impressive to them, but many of them told me there is one thing that really moved their mind. That was very, very impressive. After the celebration ceremony, they visited the Korean headquarters, especially the retirement house where retired ministers are living. Sudawan, retired ministers are retirement home. And when having green tea together, they have a more relaxed time. But retired minister, one minister said, they are very, very busy. So one of our Philadelphia Temple member, I think it was Steve asked that, you are already retired. Why do you say you are very busy? That very old female minister replied, I'm very busy preparing for my next life. For my next life, for my eternal life. Our second head Dharma master said, May fly, which is born in the early morning and at dusk it dies. May fly, plan for one day. Grasshoppers, plan for one season. Some birds probably have to prepare for several years for their lifespan. Average people prepare for one life. Practitioners are supposed to prepare for eternal life. In this area, of course, we need to prepare ourselves in many things, but preparing for our eternal life is one of the most critical and important things. So from that perspective, I encourage you to read Won Buddhism scripture. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Yu. Wow, that was very powerful. Is there any questions, reflections on that? Starting from talking about being a procrastinator, really about talking about this, change our environment if that works. Also, like just key sentences that struck me. The battleground is the mind. I thought that was pretty powerful. And observe the circumstances. So Reverend Yu talked today about a lot of very much important tips and a lot of teachings. Is there any questions or reflections based on what he spoke about today? Mm-hmm. Or is it just like, okay, let's do it now. Let's just do it. That's like, all right. That's the task. Okay. Well, okay, Diane?
It's just one little thing. I appreciate, Reverend Yu, your comment about procrastination deriving from fear of results sometimes, because I can be a great procrastinator about a lot of things. And that really is going to help me, I think, to move past it more easily, understanding what the roots are, that it's not just laziness.
Yes, Brenda.
So my question is, okay, so I understand that we need to, find our life goal, be mindful, have meditative time, but I'm finding that as I'm studying, I'm increasing in my feelings of franticness. Like I feel like there's so many things in the scriptures, and maybe I'm just not understanding them clearly enough. But there's the fourfold grace, and then there's I don't know, all the doctrinal chart and everything. I'm just, how do you do it? How do you do it? I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with right now. I love it and I find peace in it and I see benefit. But I'm also feeling myself like ramping up, like and then there goes the anxiety or the fear of results and the procrastination and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, as I talked a lot, I would like to open that to other students. Yeah.
Yeah, go John, and then Ida.
Yeah, Brenda. I'm blessed with not having a very good memory, and so I can't keep track of too many details. And sometimes I lose my attention also. So, but with this practice, I think a couple essentials. That this is some type of mental training. Similar to the way that we train our body, but in this sense, we're strengthening our mind to do what? But there was one thing Kyominim down in the who Reverend Wongong's first assistant, I forget her name down there, but she once talked about maintaining a water taste nature. So that always stuck with me to think, I always like to have some soda pop, some ginger ale, but if you can attune your body to be accustomed to just the simple non-taste of water, that's actually the most healthy thing for you. And why is it that I attune myself to wanting to have the Coca-Cola all the time? It's that never-ending search for satisfaction. So just a simple thought that I had.
Go ahead, Ida. I think Ida. Microphone? Oh, the microphone. Oh, she's okay. Great.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I understand and I feel tremendous sympathy for what Brenda said. But I guess one of the things that I've been able to mull over and maybe discover over time is that circle, the wand circle or the circle of life or the cycles of the seasons. It's really tremendous in that we can, over time, as was previously said, achieve a lot, or we can achieve a little, and it's all cumulative. And sometimes we have a lot of things in our lives, and so we have to juggle a lot. And sometimes we have little things in our lives, and so we don't have to juggle so much. But then we have time to mull over or to be mindful of the things that we have done or left undone during those times when we've either needed to do a lot or a little. And I think what's lovely about that circle is that in some way, and maybe this sounds silly, in some way it doesn't matter, because as long as we're moving around and around, as long as we're moving, we can make some kind of progress and we will get there. And I guess, this ties in not with today's discussion, but with the thought of, it's not regeneration, but reincarnation, rebirth. Sometimes I think about, well, what did I do in my last life that brought me to this juncture? Or, well, here I am. Well, what difference will it make in my next life? Or some things I think about, well, it's okay. I'll deal with that in my next life. I'll do it better. So it's kind of a combination of being easy in ourselves, but not being so easy that we don't do anything. It's just to keep moving forward and to be accepting of the way we can move forward. I guess that's what tonight's discussion, brought out in my thoughts.
Great. Okay, so to Kathy, yeah, Kathy will do. No, I'll just well, Kathy, and then we'll move into the smaller groups. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hi. I want to add really to what you said, Ida, which was really lovely. Brenda, I think it's just no rushing. There's no reason to rush. Tiffany really reminded me of Namo Amitabha. And why she reminded me of that is just return to, we do the chant Namo Amitabha, return to limitless life, return to limitless life. And that's a continuous practice. And it's a practice of not going or getting or becoming or getting anywhere. It's really a practice of just returning over and over. So there's no reason to rush. Every minute, every part of the journey is like just like I think Reverend Yu would say, or I'm thinking of Reverend Song. He does this thing opening the sorry, you can't see my hands, the lotus flower. It's like one petal at a time. And it's not the thing is, it's supposed to be that way. I mean, it's that way for a reason. It's slow. So if we just, it happens all at once, it's not good for us. We just need this very slow opening. And so every moment we can bring ourselves back to presence. That's part of it. It's part of the path. And then Reverend Yu, lovely how he said, if we put a lot of effort in, if we just continue to prepare, then you get great success. Which anybody I think that's practiced for a while can say, hey, you know what? I am really different than I was. If you can say that, now I really understand and I really feel, I feel very different than I did before I started this practice. I think we all can say that. So I just wanted to add to that. And I understand too where you're coming from. So.
Thank you for that, Kathy. So now we're going to move into our smaller groups. And again, when you're in your smaller groups, focusing on how are you practicing the second item of mindfulness? Or if not, what are the obstacles? And if you have obstacles, what kind of changes in your environment? Reverend Yu was talking about that. What changes in your environment you can make? Right. So share your wisdom with your Dharma friends. So I'm going to open up the rooms now, and we'll have about 15 minutes.
Next time.
No worries. Yeah.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. So talking about the second item of mindfulness in daily applications, was there any insights that you gained from each other? Is there any group in particular where you could just share something that might help the bigger group? In talking about preparation and talking about changing our environment, or any tips or any challenges that you faced while doing number 2? Yes, Brenda.
So I was in the group with Isabel and Catherine, and one of the things that was brought up was that just really caught my mind was, we try to maintain a sense of peace or calm within our minds, and if you do not prepare, then everything hits you and then you're just rushing around crazy, which we've all done. We've all experienced both sides of the coin. And I just thought that was a really great example that was given about kind of moving and just that whole, that's a you have to prepare no matter what, and then just kind of reorganizing. So I thought that was good.
Thank you, Brenda. Anyone else, any other group have a sharing for the bigger group? Oh, yes, Christine.
So I was with Ida and Jay and Tiffany, and it was Brenda's question about fear and about being worried about all this study that really, I think, sparked our discussion, because we all know that fear can make us freeze and not move forward. And we all said when we first started studying that everything seems overwhelming. And sometimes it still does. Sometimes we read something or listen to a Dharma talk and we can't really figure it out. But like Kathy said, there's no rush. And we really need to know that if we haven't figured something out, maybe it's not the time to figure it out. Maybe the next thing we read will help us make the whole thing gel. So so a lot of it was about that, the thoughts about procrastination and fear and our ego that will stop us from moving forward. If we don't believe in ourselves and know that, we're on a path that's really helping, whether it's reading scripture, journaling, meditating, doing Qigong, Tai Chi, whatever we're doing, it's working. And every little bit that we do is part of what helps us in the next part of the path. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that, but it was a great discussion. It was really good. So I really appreciate everybody in my group. Thank you.
Wow, that was just a lot of motivation. Thank you, Christine. I feel like, yeah, we can do it. Okay. How about John's group? Was there anything that came up for your group there? John, Shino, or Diane?
I don't know. We should let Reverend Shinu lead us, but I had a thought that's related to this, and that I wanted to get the perspective of the group. It's related to the topic. The emphasis is on what we could do for ourselves in little small steps, but this is going to sound like I'm lying, but I have a friend who just told us that he needed to lose a lot of weight. And and there's other issues as well. So you wonder what you can do to influence the other person to make the small steps that. So I just wonder if there are any thoughts about, should we just focus on ourselves, or how do we have others join the path, so to speak, when it seems obvious and frustrating when you can't induce the change in someone else, more or less.
Great question for the group. Does anyone have tips for John? Yeah, Ida.
Hi, John. How are you? This might sound ridiculous, but it occurs to me, maybe just ask. And then the reason I say that is because I know that during those times when I've wanted to lose weight or when I've wanted to accomplish anything, I really had to have that impetus myself. It's like if anybody came along to push me, I was going to push back. But if somebody asked me, what can I do to help you? Or would you like some help? I think I would have really been overcome with gratitude. So it's just a thought.
Brenda, yeah. Thank you, Ida.
Along those same lines, one of the first things that always comes to my mind is just show love and compassion. We each have our own struggles, and that same idea that if you just love them no matter what, and so they're even when they're down, they can know they can trust you. And then also when they're up, that you can be their cheerleader and continue to help them and ask if you can help them and how they would like to be helped and what has helped you.
Great sharings. Does that help, John? Okay. Yes, she knows when you.
Three things. Number one, I'm sorry about the last week. For some personal issue, I couldn't join. So this time in the group, I had a little time to know each other with Diane from Sufism. So I was so excited. And thank you for John understanding my exciting. And number two, I didn't know that the red shirts behind John is John. So would you move your head? Yes, that is John. And number three, Reverend, you told us watching your thought 3 minutes. And because, we are all practitioners and we have a purpose of practice. Maybe each time we face the sensory conditions, we might be able to see, wow, it is the time for practice. And it happened to me today at the office. Some of you know already, I am the finance officer at the One Institute. And when numbers are doesn't match, it really triggers me. And that time in my drawer, there was a little Oreo, the snacks. And when I opened the drawer and grabbed the Oreo, I thought, oh, it is the time to practice. But even if I realized that it was the time to practice, to watch my mind and to pause, I didn't stop the 3 minutes. You mean I really didn't pause. I just recognized my Oreo, and in 3 seconds, I thought I really need it this time. And I just opened it and I finished up. So what I got today is, when we pause or when we really stop and do the meditation, we really need to pause our mind, not just see the sensory conditions and skip the moment. And he also said, a small unmindful can change your life. Because I already finished one Oreo snack, I finished my second one too. So, because I ruined my mindful item. Oh, I already finished the one. Why not the second one? So thank you, Reverend Yu. And I'm gonna put the sticky note on my screen. 3 minutes. Thank you.
It was funny when she was saying Oreo, everyone laughed because we're all like, oh, that's me. That's actually me doing the same thing. Okay, sorry. Who? I think it was Che or Kathy. Okay.
I was so funny. We actually talked about preparation, like what is preparation? And then we talked also, it was like kind of the opposite, of a little bit of what you're saying and Reverend Yu was saying, because sometimes you don't have 3 minutes. And sometimes you have to respond, you have to be mindful very, very quickly. In various situations, we have to, and we talked about the way to prepare for that. And the way to prepare for that is the rest of the 6 items, which seem separate, but are not separate. So we prepare by studying scripture and by our practice. And And then when we can't really figure it out, letting go, or Reverend, what did you call it? Forget about it, and then assessing. So I thought that was interesting. And then that we were talking about that type of preparation that's so valuable. And Allison said, and preparing for your life, your next life, like Reverend Yu was talking about. And then what brought us right back to the vow. So our having the strength in our conviction for the vow, which is like the spark or that ignite. Somebody said spark, maybe it was Tiffany, the igniting, kind of the ignition that gets us moving, gets us to preparation. So it gets us sitting again and gets us practicing again. So then when we're hit with sensory conditions, we don't need 3 minutes. Sometimes, but I do think that, of course, the pause is super valuable, but sometimes we only have 30 seconds. Sometimes, somebody's doing something dangerous. There's only that split moment. So that was one of the things that we talked about.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. So it looks like did anyone else last? Okay. All right. So Reverend Yu, can you close us off with some closing words?
Do you know in all the days how they killed the king in secret? Kings were protected by very good soldiers and the bodyguards. It's very hard to approach sending some spy. One of a very popular way was to bribe the chef and put very small portion of a poison in the food of the king. After several months, after 6 months, the king became very sick and died eventually. Just like the kings became sick and dead slowly, if people have the habit of postponing things or procrastination, we tend to kill ourselves very, very gradually. Several years ago, one American scholar studied. He picked up 500 successful person in USA, in the business area, in the sports, in the politics, etc. What made them to be very successful in their area, in their career? It may be their working hour or their level of education or their background, where in what kind of a family they're born, etc. He selected the 4 or 5 elements and sent emails to those 500 people. What he discovered was very, very interesting. The more successful they are, the quicker they send the reply email. It's not what that scholar expected. The successful person may are more busy. Probably their secretary, but anyway, whoever sent that, what he discovered is for those successful person, they don't postpone things. They just do what they are supposed to do very quickly. That's one of the elements. I like the slogan of Nike. Is that Adidas? How could you do that? Just to do that. There is no secret. There's no secret. Do you know why these days there are a lot of books on self-development? What's the word? Self? Or do you know why so many people buy lottery, etc., involved in gambling? They would like to invest a very small amount of time or energy and expect a lot of good things. Books on self-development, self-study, those things. Well, what is more skillful way, more efficient way? Many times it does not work. We have to realize, as much as we sweat, we labor, we will accomplish our goal. Very simple, clear truth. But many people start to ignore that truth and something supernatural, something skillful, something efficient. That kind of a mindset can be the biggest obstacle. I forgot that very legendary, famous basketball coach. He led the team, and as far as I recall, Kentucky University. He made a third-class basketball team within several years, the best team in the USA. A lot of basketball coaches asked for the secret. He told them, he opened up all his skills and strategies. But other coaches use those strategies in their teams. It didn't work. It is because there was something very important was missing. That coach at the Kentucky University really emphasized something basic. He really poured a lot of time to enhance the physical strength of the players, physical strength, and the basic athletic ability of the players. But in other teams, they just learn the strategy and the skill, which is not supported by the basic physical strength or athletic ability. That's why it didn't work for other teams. So as much as we prepare, as much as we sweat, we will accomplish a greater things. We should not forget this very, very simple and clear and straightforward the truth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful closing, Reverend Yu. And since we started with a healing meditation, just in the chat box, if you can just write an encouraging word for your Dharma friends before we log off, just anything encouraging that you can leave your Dharma friends as we venture into this new week. So anything that you feel will encourage their practice. Yeah, John, just do it. Yes, that's it. Just do it. Watch. Thank you for that, Shinogyominim. Yes, you're right. Focus. Trust the Dharmakaya Buddha who's there. Make a resolve. Patience. These are so great. Yes. Okay, patience. Never give up. Watch the movie Rudy. Okay. Thank you for that. A little bit is more than you had. Oh. Mm-hmm. Let's do one small thing to not procrastinate. Small steps. Mm-hmm. Make a resolve. These are great. Small steps. So it sounds like everyone has these small steps, one day at a time, right? Just breathe. Keep on carrying on. Yeah, this is great. Wonderful. So, did we get everything here? Okay. I think there's a way for me. What I will do is there's a way because I'm recording this, so I think Zoom also records the text messages. So perhaps I'll send this to everyone so that you remember to practice this week. Right. So keep carrying on. Okay. Hit save chat. Oh, is there? Okay, great. 3 dots to her. Ah, okay, thank you. I'll do that. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time. All right. Same Zoom address. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye. See you.
And